Using a fan on seedlings is typically referenced as something that makes the stem stronger, but that actually is not the truth when it comes to why we use fans. It actually has to do with a lot of physiological processes going on within the plant, and therefore the speed, the duration, the intensity all changes the physiological response of the plant. And that's why you may not just want to set it and forget it when it comes to fans, depending on what your goals are. Because if you have it too high on for too long, you end up with weaker, sicker plants. Or if you don't have it on at all, then you also end up with weaker, sicker plants. So today's video, we're actually going to jump into a ton of plant science that I'm sure many of you are going to enjoy. If you don't know who I am, hi, hello, my name is Ashley. I'm a bachelor's of science in soil science. I like to take said science and apply it to all things plants. I've been gardening since I was 5 years old in the grandma. Been working in the world of agriculture for about 15 years. And when we were talking about plant science or anything like that, I get a little bit excited. So fans and seedlings is right up my alley when it comes to discussions about, is right up my alley when it comes to fun things to talk about. Particularly when it's cold outside still where I am and I'm watching everyone's Instagrams from all over the world. That's not Canada, basically being outdoors, except for those of you that are on the precipice of the oceans where it's apparently warm there. So I am jealous. So with that being said, we're going to look at 5 different biological processes that take place when we add or take away fans. So number 1 is stronger stems. And if you want to sound super smart, it's actually considered Thigmomorphogenesis. It's a really long word for saying stronger stem. And more specifically, a stronger stem caused by a response to a plant sensing movement. So thigmomorphogenesis could technically happen via fans, wind, mechanical manipulation, you flopping your hand over the top of it, animals, you name it. It's just the plant's physiological response to excessive levels of movement. So what happens when you're pushing around your plant too much? It actually says to itself, I need to become stronger. And the way that it does this is it adds the proverbial equivalent of plant rebar to its structure, which is also known as lignin. If the plants are not being worked out, then this ramp up of lignin does not take place and they tend to stay a little bit weaker. Now, when they put on the lignin, they also become bulkier and typically shorter just by the nature of how that biomass is being placed onto the plant. So that also can be beneficial when it comes to withstanding things like a Saskatchewan windy day. Next one, I think also is pretty logical, and we already know that this is what fans do, but it helps with fungal control. So fungi, whether it's Fusarium, Rhizoctinia, Pythium, all of these, they do require a thin film of water, either on the soil surface or on the plant itself. Now, obviously, when we have airflow, this thin film of water no longer exists. Now, the third one is where things actually get a little bit more interesting. Plants are sometimes exposed to what we call the boundary layer. Essentially, what the boundary layer is it is a layer of air in and around the seedling and or the plant that essentially means all the CO2 has been used up, and there's just higher levels of oxygen. And when this happens, photosynthesis actually slows down. When photosynthesis slows down, growth slows down, both for the roots and for the upper biomass. So you end up with stunted. Plants need to breathe, and we know plants breathe CO2 over oxygen. And so if all the CO2 has been used up, and a whole bunch of oxygen has been released, but it has no way of escaping that area, then we end up with reduced growth. Now, it doesn't actually show up in the plants. Plants aren't going to look sick. They're not going to look stunted. They're just going to grow slower. So you're not going to know if this is happening. That is one reason why you may choose to use a fan and or your hand or something to cause some sort of movement in that canopy to replace the oxygen with more CO2. Next up is transpiration. So we have spoke about this before. Transpiration is directly related to nutrient uptake. Plants don't eat nutrients out of the soil. Plants pull nutrients out of the soil, similar to a straw. If the plant is always hydrated. There's no reason for it to pull from the straw and grab more water, if you will. And similar to humans, plants actually do dehydrate when they're exposed to wind or air movement. So one way to promote plants to uptake more nutrients, specifically things like calcium, for example, which, by the way, if you want to starve off blossom end rot, burr, that sort of thing, it's not so much what you do during the season. It actually has a lot to do with what you do now with your seedling. And so one of those nutrients that moves through the plant very readily when there's air movement around the plant is actually calcium. So if we want to increase the utilization of nutrients and get more nutrients into that seedling to make it stronger, then we need to move the air, which in turn moves the water, which in turn triggers the plant to suck up more water. Next one is actually hugely underrated, and that is actually for pest control. So fungus gnats hate air movement. Spider mites despise anything that's not a stable environment, and aphids do poorly in air that is moving as well. Not to mention, if you have drier soil surfaces, things like fungus gnats have a really hard time actually laying their eggs in that soil surface. Next up is actually controlling heat. So if you've ever had a plant that's showing signs of heat stress, such as cupping, for example, then it actually may be an indicator that you need more air movement, because when you have air movement, it actually displaces the heat. So there is, along with the boundary effect, the gases, but there also is temperature. And so things around plants tend to be warmer. This is why when it gets cooler outside, if you bundle all your containers up closer together, and you put a blanket on top of them, they tend to do well in a container garden. It has to do with proximity to each other. So one way to ensure that there's a nice cool temp, or a temp that's ideal for seedlings so that there's no stunted growth, is via that fan or that air movement. So when it comes to setting intensity, you want to make sure that your intensity is a gentle movement, not a gale force wind. The other thing, ideally, is that you have an oscillating fan. So if you've ever actually looked at a forest or a set of trees on a boundary, you'll notice that if it is in a wind area, that all the trees are kind of leaning to one area, because that is where the headwind constantly is hitting that truck. So to avoid that, we obviously want a headwind, if you will, that is constantly moving or oscillating if possible. If this isn't the case, then what you could do is get a clamp light or clamp fan that you can move strategically around different trays and in different positions on your seed starting setup. The other key here is to mimic Mother Nature as much as possible. So Mother Nature typically does not have gale force winds in the middle of the night, meaning if you can hook that fan up to a timer along with your lights, that is what makes the most sense to the plant, and that's what the plant will respond to the best. It gives it a little bit of time to recover, and that little bit of nuance can make a pretty big difference. Now, if you want 25 rapid fire tips on how to actually save thousands of dollars when it comes to seed starting, then I suggest you hit that subscribe button, because that's actually my next video that's coming out. This is what Google says you should watch based on what you've been searching. And this is what I just recently released. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.